Airplane. Right, welcome back to welcome back to Panoply Pictures. As you know, what we're doing here, well, what I'm doing here, well, I'm just a crazy person speaking to myself at the moment, but I work in the film industry, so we're all kind of a bit that way, I guess. What I want to do is create a movie that we make together. So we write it together. You can do shot lists, storyboards, all that sort of stuff. If we build up enough money, then we can crew it, cast it, do everything just via the internet. Yeah, and then release it as well. So at the moment, we're just sort of talking, and I've got some ideas that I sort of jot down and wrote some things. So the whole concept of this one is that Death has like a hitman. So, like check some of the earlier episodes if you want to catch up where we're at. So one of the ideas that I have with this whole thing, and of course, do the comments and liking and subscribing and sharing with all your friends, the more people, get amongst it, the better it is that when you die, you meet death, all right? So, or one of the deaths, okay? So in this version of the world, we've got multiple sort of death things happening. But the thing is that whatever you believe in life is what happens in death. So if you believe that there's a heaven and you're going to go to heaven, you'll probably go to heaven, right? And it's your version of whatever that is. If you believe there's a hell, then you end up there. If you believe you just turn into nothingness, well, that's what happens as well. If you believe that, whatever you believe, right? So if you believe you can manifest as anything, then that's kind of what it is. So you create the afterlife or lack of afterlife in this world. So that's kind of the concept that I'm sort of playing with, that nobody's right and kind of nobody's wrong at the same time. So it's whatever you believe, and if whatever you believe is what helps you to become like a better person in life, or even a worse person, do you know what I mean? But the downside of that, right, is then just say you're a bad person and you've done all these bad things, but then you'll still believe you'll end up in heaven. That's a loophole. And if you kind of think about some religions, that's kind of the loophole in some ways, like you can do whatever you want, and as long as you go in there and say you're sorry or whatever, or then you get that absolution. So is there any real reason to be nice if that's what you truly believe? There's not really any. If you think that there's always like, a get out of jail free card, you just apologize for whatever it is, and then suddenly you're sort of free to do that. So I kind of have been playing with this sort of idea, and the problem is how do you portray this in kind of a nice way, as opposed to being like, to make people feel bad about themselves. Because I'm not trying to say that everything's bad or whatever. I think that whatever you do in life that helps you become a better person and a nicer person, then I think that's probably what you should do, But I think the problem with that is that not everybody's version of nice or good is the same, right? So if you're bound by ideologies or thought processes that this way is better than that way, then it doesn't necessarily mean it's right? I do apologise for the voice as well sometimes. Like I'll breathe through my mouth. That's because I've had my nose broken a bunch of times, so I can't always breathe through my nose so easily. Yeah, lifestyle. So it's like if your character is inherently a bad person and then still believes they're going to go to heaven, then that's where they end up, right? So in that case, there is no accountability, there is no anything, right? Or, if they think that nothing bad's going to happen to them, if they die, then in this scenario, nothing bad happens to them. Which is, I kind of probably think is how it works anyway, right? Like, I understand everybody has their religious viewpoints and all those sort of things, and that's fair enough. But with so many different types, and I think South Park did a good thing on this, where it was like, like the Mormons were right. Yeah, they might be. I don't know. Like, who knows? Like, nobody really knows. Everybody just believes what they believe. But that's kind of not the point of this movie. This movie is not to make, political or religious or whatever sort of perspectives or whatever. It's more about death, sort of, been doing this sort of stuff for so long, and just seeing all the problems that sort of occur with that kind of thought process, that people believe that they can treat people badly because they have a justified ideology that allows them to do that. Right or wrong, I don't really have much of a viewpoint on that. And definitely not one that I'd be wanting to share. This is not that kind of a thing where, this is not like a religious type of channel or whatever. This is purely just making movies, talking crap, getting ideas out there, seeing what kind of works, what kind of doesn't work. But that was the kind of idea. So when this character dies and then goes and meets death, and death, I kind of think it's kind of like a fun kind of death, like more of like a Bill and Ted kind of death, as opposed to like a savage sort of death. Still doing the same job, right? But still kind of having a bit of fun. And why wouldn't death have a sense of humour? If death's kind of seen it all, and nothing, like people who kind of lack the sense of humour tend to be like super serious people, that they don't see the nuances of it. I mean, like just what's that definition of comedy? It's tragedy over time. So, and then depending on who you're talking to, depends on how quickly the jokes can start running. Although they run pretty quick these days. I remember, pre-internet and all that sort of stuff, something bad would happen here on the news, and it would take a few days or a few weeks or whatever for the early jokes to start coming out. There was always that couple of people who were like super funny, and they'd always have these super fast jokes. But now, like, dude, something happens, and then 5 seconds later, it's all over. It's all over everything, right? So I see Death as being this sort of funny kind of fun character who's just sort of had enough with, where they're sort of positioned in life. So if this sort of Death is going to recruit these people, and kind of a thought that I had is, when you get recruited in this job, it's kind of like a minimum 1,000 years that you have to do, because you wouldn't want to like give power like this to just anybody. So that's kind of the thought on this one, is like, whatever happens in the afterlife is whatever you've decided happens in life. So you kind of seal your own fate into, the afterlife, or lack thereof, or whatever it is that you've imagined that you think would be the coolest thing in the world, then that's it. All right. Talk to you later. Like, subscribe, all those sort of things. So I'm just casually writing this movie, and then writing it with you. Hopefully more people will start to interact, and we'll just keep bubbling this thing along.